Welcome to the New York Baseball Digest, where we talk baseball 24/7, 365. I'm your host, Mike Silva, on this Sunday, January the 11th. Tonight, Howard McDell and I host the 2009 Hall of Fame show. Joining us will be Frank Russo, New York Baseball Digest contributor and author of the book Bury My Heart at Cooperstown, and Darren, a.k.a. Repose, from the popular baseballthinkfactory.org. Of course, you can be part of the show 24/7 at my radio show blog, nybaseballdigest.com, and you can check me out at dugoutcentral.com. Well, I want to welcome everybody in tonight here, a Sunday night, a football Sunday, and pretty much here in New York, it's the signal of the end of the football season. There will be no more significant football here. The Giants losing to the Eagles, so a little bit of a double whammy when it comes to Philadelphia, as they end the Mets season early and they end the Giants season early. So I was talking to Howard earlier today, and when I get him on here in a minute, and I said, well, now that the football season is over, I guess you and I are going to have to carry the fans until the spring. Now, of course, there's the Knicks, there's the Rangers, and nothing against the Rangers who are having a fine season, but I really don't know if hockey can fill that void between now and pitchers and catchers. I think the Knicks could have, but once they made the deal, Zach Randolph and Jamal Crawford, I think that this season as well as the next two seasons went up in smoke. So right now, what's standing between pitchers and catchers and the fan base is Mike Silva and Howard McDell, and I want to welcome in Howard right now. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay. I think we could be good to take the fans out into April. There's college basketball, too, not to forget. St. John's just had a big win last weekend against Notre Dame, and the Big East is exciting as always. So, I think we'll get there. I think Giants fans, after the miracle season they had last year, well, maybe it's okay not to win every year.
That's true, but nothing really hurts or stings any more than losing to Philadelphia. I mean, after the season the Phillies had, losing to a Philadelphia team, it does hurt a little bit.
Oh, no question about it. And then the question becomes, has Philadelphia become dominant over New York, and is this something you have to put up with extremely overweight people with cheesesteaks in their mouths, making fun of New Yorkers, but you can't really tell what they're saying because their mouths are full of food? Or is it that we have now seen a switch in places? And yes, the Giants are no longer supreme over the Eagles, but that means that now the Mets are taking control over the Phillies. I've contacted a good friend of mine who's a big Philadelphia fan, and let him know that I consider this a formal trade and look forward to seeing the Mets in the playoffs in October.
And I wanted just to let you know about a couple of guests. I'm sure you know about it. We hope to have Frank Russo call in at some point during the first.
If he's okay.
If he's okay. I haven't seen the number pop up yet, so it is possible that good old Frank might not be joining us tonight. And Darren Repose from baseballthinkfactory.org is going to call in. And it's funny, Howard. He knows the parameters of the show because he made sure about a half an hour ago to let me know exactly how to pronounce Repose, because I would have said Repose, and he says no, and he says, hey Mike, just to let you know it's Repose. So that saves me one less mispronounced name tonight.
Darren's a great guy. It's going to be terrific to have him on the air. I had the chance to meet him in person last year, and looking forward to talking baseball with him.
Well, while we wait for our contributors to call in, if they do, I'll preface it by that there might be some very unhappy Giants fans out there. Let's just talk briefly before we get to the Hall of Fame about what's happened here, I guess with the Mets and a little bit with the Yankees, but specifically the Mets over the last 24 to 48 hours. And Joe DeMaio over at the site, nybaseballdigest.com, kind of updated us. And I got to say, and I said this to Joe before we went on the air, I said Howard's probably feeling a little better about the possibility of Oliver Perez spending 2009 and beyond in a Mets uniform after the recent developments with Derek Lowe and the Braves, and reading Joe's latest rumor mill.
Boy, it's certainly looking that way, and Joe has given me reason for optimism. And if you're the Mets, how could you not be pleased to see Derek Lowe end up with the Braves, a team that, quite frankly, even with Derek Lowe, is not in any danger of contending next year. let the Braves take on a large contract for an over 35 player. I think it's only appropriate given the state of where the Braves are at this point. And the Mets can turn around and get the in-prime guy. What a lovely turnaround from all those years where the Mets got the guys just beyond their sell-by date, and the Braves seem to have all the in-prime stars.
And the Braves seem to be getting frustrated by their plight. Chipper Jones talking about John Smoltz and his departure. It sounds like he wasn't happy with the way the Braves handled that entire situation. They tried to go get A.J. Burnett. They were spurned by A.J. Burnett. I made a joke in a piece I wrote on Friday. I called them America's most insignificant team because they used to be America's team. Maybe that's a little unfair, but I think the Braves need to realize that when a free agent looks at the landscape, it used to be they'd be going to a perennially winning team. The money was relatively the same, but now if the money's the same or a little bit more, it seems like they're more inclined to go somewhere else.
Well, it's a shame. You really feel badly for Chipper Jones because, he was talking about how classy the Braves were, and you compare that to the Phillies calling the Mets joke artists and things like that. And it's so true. I mean, nothing is classier than sticking it to the team that you are beating over and over again by naming your son Shea. Nothing is classier than knocking up a Hooters waitress while you're in the midst of a marriage. Nothing is classier than having a teammate go on and on about all of the freaks on the 7 train, as John Rocker did. The Braves, there was a quiet dignity to what they did year after year, and so, boy, it makes you yearn for the days of yesteryear where the Atlanta Braves were the quiet, classy head of the National League East, doesn't it?
It does, and I'll tell you what, though, there will be one player that we would never have thought could get as much press over the course of 48 hours and cause as much of a stir than Tim Redding. Howard, I have never seen a one-year, $2.25 million contract get more publicity and probably has been one of the more commented topics on our website. I mean, the 2 Tim Redding articles got about 10 to 15 comments, so for our startup site, that's still, in comparison to a Mets blog, is pretty novice, but it got the juices flowing for the New York baseball fan.
Well, here's what I will say, and in defense of why Tim Redding matters. As it stood prior to the Redding deal, the Mets had a situation where their 4th starter was Jonathan Neese, he of 3 career Major League starts, and their 5th starter was Bobby Parnell, he of 0 career Major League starts. Given that I think the Mets offense is in tremendous shape and the bullpen has been totally reconstructed, Mets fans are justifiably concerned that they are essentially a couple of starters away from being clearly the class of the National League. So thinking about what can be done to get that 4th and 5th spots taken care of, is fundamentally important to the 2009 team. Now, that said, Tim Redding, it's hard to see that he's the answer. He put up a 4.95 ERA last year. He did it in what played as a tremendous pitcher's park, and he never is able to stay healthy. So it's very hard for me to see him as, let's say the answer. What he is, however, is another arm that you can throw into that mix. As of right now, not only were they the 4 and 5, but arguably your only backup to them was Nelson Figueroa. Well,
Howard, here's one thing I'll throw at you. How many, and Joey actually brought it up to me when we were talking off the air, and I said, I didn't think of it that way. But how many 5th starters go and give you 180 innings? Let's say Tim Redding gives you 180 innings at a 4.9 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
Not too many 5th starters give you that kind of innings.
No, you would be just fine. But first of all, the 180 innings, again, that is not something that you saw Redding give you over and over again throughout his career. It's the same thing that we talked about, although on a much larger scale, with the New York Yankees and A.J. Burnett. Yes, he gave you 221 innings last year. Well, that wasn't what he's done throughout his career. And if you look at Redding, he gave you 176 in 2003, 182 last year, and other than that, his career high is 100.7 innings. So there's a guy who, and by the way, with not particularly good results.